What if the person you've trusted your entire life suddenly felt like a stranger? Claire Mitchell never thought she'd have to ask herself that question. At 61, she believed she knew what peace looked like: early mornings with quiet coffee, evenings spent beside her husband Daniel while he read the newspaper, and weekends filled with visits from her daughter and 5-year-old grandson, Evan. But peace, she'd learn, can vanish quietly, not with noise, but with a whisper. It started on a Friday morning in late spring. The sky was soft gray, the kind that made the world look gentle. Daniel was leaving for yet another business trip, something he'd been doing more often lately. "It's just 3 days, Claire," he said, buttoning his shirt with the same calm tone he used for everything. "Don't wait up for my calls. I'll be in meetings most of the time." Claire smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was used to this now. The distance, the polite words, the way their marriage had slowly turned into a quiet partnership built on habits instead of affection. After he left, the house felt emptier than usual. When her daughter called asking if she could watch Evan for the weekend, Claire didn't hesitate. She loved that boy more than anything. Maybe spending time with him would fill the quiet spaces in her heart. That evening, she decided to do something spontaneous, something Daniel never liked. She booked a seaside hotel just a few hours away. "It'll be fun," she told Evan. "We'll have breakfast by the ocean, watch the sunset, maybe even build sandcastles." His laughter was her favorite sound in the world by sunset. They had checked into a cozy little hotel near the shore. The room smelled of salt and new beginnings. Claire ordered pancakes for dinner just to make Evan giggle. He jumped on the bed, watching cartoons while she sipped hot tea by the window. For the first time in months, she felt light. No pressure to be the perfect wife. No silence to fill, no judgment. Just her and her grandson and the sound of waves. Sometimes peace arrives right before the storm. Later that night, Claire went to unpack Daniel's small travel bag. He had accidentally left it in the car when he rushed to the airport. She thought about mailing it to him, but curiosity won. Maybe she could organize it first. Inside, everything was neatly folded: shirts, shaving cream, papers from his office. But at the bottom, tucked between a file and a book, something caught her eye. It was a letter, soft, slightly crumpled, written in a woman's handwriting. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded it. "Last night was unforgettable. I can't stop thinking about you. The way you looked at me when the lights went out, I'll never forget it." Claire froze. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. She read it again, hoping she'd misunderstood. But the meaning was clear. This wasn't from a client, a friend, or a coworker. This was from another woman, someone who knew her husband in ways she no longer did. Her heartbeat quickened. She felt dizzy, betrayed, yet numb all at once. 40 years of marriage gone in a paragraph written by someone else's hand. She sat down on the edge of the bed, clutching the letter as if it could explain itself. Evan looked up from his cartoons, unaware of the storm building inside her. "Grandma, are you okay?" he asked. "Yes, sweetheart," she managed to whisper. "I'm fine." But she wasn't. Sometimes the quietest betrayals are the loudest in your heart. That night, after Evan fell asleep, Claire stared at the ceiling, unable to rest. Her mind replayed every moment with Daniel, every "I love you," every trip, every excuse. Had it all been real? Or had she been living beside a stranger, wearing the mask of a husband? She picked up her phone. There was a message from Daniel. "Working late. Don't wait up. It's just like always." The same line. The same lie. She wanted to call him, to demand the truth, to shout. But Evan stirred in his sleep and she stopped. She couldn't let her anger spill into the innocence of that moment. Instead, she walked out onto the small balcony, the cold air hitting her face. The ocean stretched endlessly, dark and calm, mocking her chaos. She held the letter tightly in her hand until it crumpled. 1,000 questions filled her mind. Who was she? How long had this been going on? Why now, when she had given him everything? Her youth, her dreams, her loyalty. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "After all these years, Daniel? Why?" The waves crashed below, offering no answers. When the heart breaks quietly, it changes the way you see everything. By morning, she had made a decision. She would not fall apart, not in front of Evan, not here. She dressed, smiled for him, and took him down to breakfast. The hotel restaurant was filled with families laughing, couples holding hands, and the smell of waffles. It should have been comforting, but it wasn't. Across the room, she saw an elderly couple sharing a plate of fruit, their hands brushing as they talked. For a moment, her throat tightened. That used to be her and Daniel. Once upon a time, she forced herself to focus on Evan. "After breakfast, we'll go to the beach," she said. He grinned, syrup on his cheeks. "Can we build the biggest sandcastle ever?" "Of course," she smiled. "The biggest one in the world." But even as she smiled, she could feel the letter burning in her purse like a secret too heavy to hold. They spent the morning by the water. Evan laughed, running along the shore, while Claire sat on the sand, watching the waves roll in and out just like her thoughts. The ocean reminded her of love. Beautiful, endless, but capable of swallowing everything without warning. As the sun set, painting the sky in gold and pink, she took a deep breath. She couldn't pretend forever. She needed answers. She walked back to the hotel room and picked up her phone. Her fingers hovered over Daniel's number. Her heart raced. She almost pressed call, but then a message appeared. It was from an unknown number. It said only one thing: "Claire, I think you deserve to know the truth about Daniel." Her breath caught. The phone slipped from her hand and hit the carpet dot outside. Evan's laughter echoed faintly from the beach, a sound so pure it almost hurt. Claire stared at the message glowing on the screen, her pulse pounding in her ears. Who was this person? How did they know her name? And what truth were they about to reveal? The room felt colder now, the air charged with something she couldn't explain. For a long moment, she just stood there, torn between fear and the desperate need to finally understand. She looked at the phone again, the words still there, waiting. "You deserve to know the truth about Daniel." Her hands trembled as she reached for it, and just before she could open the message, someone knocked softly on her hotel door. What if the truth you've been running from is waiting right outside your door? Claire froze. The knock on her hotel door came again, soft, polite, almost hesitant. For a moment, she couldn't move. Her eyes darted between the phone on the bed and the door handle gleaming under the lamp. Her mind raced. Was it Daniel? Was it the person who sent that message? She took a deep breath, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it. "Who is it?" she asked cautiously. A calm male voice replied, "Sorry to disturb you, ma'am. I'm Mark Reynolds. I think you dropped this outside your door." Claire hesitated, then slowly opened the door just enough to see him, a tall man in his late 50s, dressed casually, holding her room key card in his hand. His face was kind, lined with the sort of gentle sadness that only comes from someone who's lived through loss. "Oh, thank you," she said softly, taking the card. "I didn't realize I dropped it." "No problem." He smiled faintly. "I'm staying across the hall. You must be here with your grandson. He's quite the little explorer. I saw him racing down the hallway earlier." That broke her tension for a moment. "Yes, that's Evan. He's the light of my life." "I can see that," Mark said kindly. "Have a good night, ma'am." He walked away, and Claire closed the door, still shaken, but strangely calm. The message still glowed on her phone screen. She stared at it, debating whether to open it. But before she could, Evan tugged at her sleeve. "Grandma, can we go swimming tomorrow?" She smiled weakly. "Of course, sweetheart, tomorrow." That night, Claire didn't open the message. She couldn't. She placed her phone face down on the nightstand, turned off the lamp, and lay in bed next to Evan, his tiny hand resting on hers. The only thing louder than the ocean outside was the echo of that mysterious text in her mind. "You deserve to know the truth about Daniel." Some truths don't shout, they whisper, waiting for the right moment to be heard. The next morning, Claire woke to the sound of laughter in the hallway. She rubbed her eyes and looked at the clock to 8:13 a.m. Evan was still asleep, curled under the blanket like a small cocoon of peace. She made herself some hotel coffee and stepped out to the balcony, hoping the sunrise would quiet her thoughts. The sea was shimmering gold, and for a moment, she felt grateful to be alive, even if her heart was breaking quietly down in the courtyard. She spotted Mark again. He was sitting at a patio table sketching something in a small notebook. Something about him felt familiar. Not his face, but his energy. Calm, steady, safe. Claire went back inside, changed, and took Evan down for breakfast. Halfway through pouring syrup over pancakes, Evan pointed excitedly. "Grandma, it's the man from the hallway." Mark looked up and waved politely. Claire smiled back. "Would you like to join us?" she asked impulsively. "I'd love to," he said, walking over. "But only if I'm not interrupting." "We're not," Claire said. "We could use the company." They talked over coffee and waffles. Mark told her he was a retired photographer. His wife, Anna, had passed away 3 years ago after a long illness. "I travel now," he said. "Not to escape, but to remember how to live again." Something about his honesty disarmed her. Claire found herself sharing pieces of her own story, that her husband was away, that she was just spending the weekend with her grandson, that she hadn't felt like herself in a long time. Mark nodded quietly. "You know, people forget that love doesn't end in one big moment. It ends in small silences, missed glances, unspoken words." Claire looked down, stirred her coffee, and said softly, "Maybe that's exactly what happened to us. For the first time, someone understood without her having to explain." After breakfast, Mark invited them to join him for a walk by the beach. Evan ran ahead, chasing seagulls, while Claire and Mark walked slowly behind. The air smelled of salt and sunlight. "You seem like someone who's been holding everything together for too long," Mark said gently. "I guess I have," Claire admitted. "But lately, it feels like everything is slipping." He nodded. "Maybe that's not a bad thing. Sometimes things fall apart so we can see what's real underneath." His words lingered long after they returned to the hotel. But peace never lasts when secrets are waiting to be found. That afternoon, Claire finally gathered the courage to open the message. Her fingers shook as she tapped the screen. The text read, "Daniel has been meeting someone at the Harborview Hotel every other Thursday. Room 214. Her breath caught. Harborview Hotel, it was less than an hour away from where they lived. She reread the message, her hands trembling. There was no name, no proof, but her gut told her this wasn't random. She quickly searched Daniel's calendar in her phone, a habit she'd picked up years ago. There it was. Business meeting, Harborview, 2 p.m., repeated every second Thursday for the past 6 months. Her chest tightened. The coincidences were too exact. That evening, she sat alone on the balcony while Evan napped. Her thoughts felt heavy and tangled. Could Daniel really have betrayed her? Or was she letting her fears write a story that wasn't true? As she stared at the ocean, she saw Mark below taking pictures of the sunset. He looked up and waved, and for a brief moment, she smiled again. Later, he knocked softly on her door. "I brought something," he said, holding 2 paper cups. "Coffee. The good kind." She accepted it gratefully. They sat together on the balcony, sipping coffee in silence. "Rough day?" he asked gently. "You could say that," Claire whispered. "I think my husband is hiding something. I just don't know how to prove it." Mark looked at her for a long moment before saying, "Sometimes proof doesn't heal you. It just confirms what your heart already knew." His words struck her deeply. She looked at him, this man she'd only known for a day, yet who seemed to understand her pain better than anyone, for the first time. Claire allowed herself to exhale fully, as if releasing years of unspoken sadness. Then her phone buzzed again. Another message. This one from Daniel. "Claire, please call me. It's not what you think." Her hands trembled. She didn't respond. Instead, she whispered, "Mark, what if I'm about to destroy everything over a misunderstanding?" He looked at her with quiet certainty. "And what if you're finally about to set yourself free?" The question hung between them like the fading light of dusk, beautiful and painful all at once. Sometimes the past calls just when you're ready to move forward. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She lay awake, listening to the ocean's rhythm, thinking about the man sleeping in another city, and the stranger sitting across the hall who somehow made her feel seen. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from an unknown number. If you want the truth about Daniel, meet me tomorrow. 11 a.m. at Harborview Hotel. Her heart stopped. Harborview, the same place from the earlier message. She stared at the glowing screen in the darkness, her pulse racing. Was it a trap? A mistake? Or was this finally the truth she'd been too afraid to face? She looked over at Evan, sleeping peacefully beside her. She brushed his hair gently and whispered, "I won't let this destroy me." Then she glanced at the clock again. 2:07 a.m., the seconds ticked louder than the waves outside. Should she go? Should she risk finding out what Daniel had really been doing? One thing was certain, the next day. Nothing would ever be the same again. And as she closed her eyes, the final thought that drifted through her mind wasn't about Daniel. It was about double quotes. What if the answers you've been chasing only lead you to a question about yourself? Claire couldn't shake the message she'd received the night before. If you want the truth about Daniel, meet me tomorrow at Harborview Hotel. She sat up in bed, staring at the screen as dawn crept through the curtains. The idea of confronting what might destroy everything she'd built terrified her. But not knowing was worse. She looked over at Evan, still sleeping peacefully. She couldn't let him sense her turmoil. She smiled, brushed his hair gently, and whispered, "Grandma just has to take care of something important today." After breakfast, she left Evan with the hotel's trusted daycare service, telling them she'd be back before noon. Then she took a deep breath and called a cab to Harborview Hotel, the same place. Daniel had supposedly been meeting someone for months. Sometimes, the truth doesn't wait. It walks right up to you. When Claire arrived, the hotel lobby was bright and modern with a scent of coffee and polished wood. Couples were checking in, business travelers were typing on laptops. Normal life surrounded her. Yet she felt like she was walking into a storm. She sat in a corner, pretending to scroll her phone while her heart pounded. 10:57 a.m., 3 minutes to go. Every second stretched longer than the last dot. Then, right on time, a woman in her late 40s entered the lobby. She wore a cream suit, carried a leather briefcase, looked around with quiet purpose before walking straight toward Claire. "Mrs. Mitchell." The woman asked softly. Claire's pulse quickened. "Yes, I'm sorry to meet you like this," she said, sitting down. "My name is Rachel Carter. I'm Daniel's coworker." Coworker. The word felt heavy. Claire's stomach tightened. "You've sent the message?" "Yes," Rachel nodded. "And before you say anything, please know I'm not here to hurt you. I just thought you deserved the truth." Claire's voice trembled. "Then tell me." Rachel took a deep breath. "Your husband has been coming here for months, but not for what you think. He's been meeting with an attorney." "An attorney?" Claire frowned. "Why?" Rachel hesitated. "Daniel's been helping his company investigate a financial fraud case. He didn't tell you because it involved someone close to your family." Claire froze. "Someone close to my family. Who?" Rachel sighed. "Your brother, Tom." It felt like the world stopped spinning. Her own brother. "Daniel and Tom had been friends since college," Rachel continued. "Your brother's been embezzling funds from Daniel's company for years. Daniel found out but didn't want to involve you until he had proof. That's why he's been meeting here with lawyers and auditors. Last week, they finally confirmed everything." Claire's chest tightened. "That can't be true." "I wish it wasn't," Rachel said gently. "I shouldn't even be telling you this, but Daniel didn't deserve to have you think he was cheating." Claire leaned back, overwhelmed. Relief, shame, and confusion mixed inside her like waves colliding in a storm. Rachel stood up. "He truly loves you, Mrs. Mitchell. He talks about you all the time. He just didn't know how to protect you and tell you the truth at the same time." When she left, Claire sat frozen for several minutes, staring at nothing. Had she really spent days suspecting the wrong thing? Had her anger blinded her from the possibility that Daniel was trying to protect her all along? Her phone buzzed. It was Daniel calling. She hesitated, then answered. "Claire," he said, his voice calm but strained. "I was hoping you'd call me first." "I know, Daniel," she said quietly. "I met Rachel." There was silence. Then he exhaled. "Then you know everything. Almost everything," she whispered. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want you to suffer because of your brother's choices," he said. "I thought if I could fix it quietly, we could move on." Claire swallowed hard. "You don't get to protect me by lying to me." "I know," he said softly. "You're right." For the first time in years, he sounded sincere, vulnerable even. "Please come home, Claire," he said. "We can fix this together." Claire closed her eyes. "Maybe," she said, "but I'm not ready yet." Sometimes forgiveness doesn't come after the truth. It comes after silence. Claire returned to the hotel by the beach that afternoon. Evan ran into her arms laughing, unaware of the storm that had passed over her. His innocence grounded her. Later, as the sun began to set, she walked down to the shore. The golden light danced across the water, and for a moment, she felt like she could breathe again. But even as the relief settled in, something felt unfinished, a strange unease that wouldn't leave. Rachel's story made sense, but something about it didn't sit right. That night, she couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, thinking about the letter she had found in Daniel's suitcase. The one with the words "last night" was unforgettable. If Daniel had been meeting lawyers and investigators, who had written that letter? And why had he kept it hidden? Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't from Daniel. It was an unknown number. "He's not who you think he is. Don't believe her." Her breath caught. She typed back quickly. "Who is this?" No reply. Claire's heart raced. What if Rachel had lied? What if the story about her brother was a cover-up? The thought chilled her. She sat up, opened her laptop, specs, and began searching the company Daniel worked for, checking every name, every article, every bit of news. After almost an hour, she found something that made her blood run cold. There was no mention of a Rachel Carter anywhere. No employee, no associate, no record at all. Claire's mind spun. If Rachel wasn't really Daniel's coworker, then who was she? And why had she come to meet her at Harborview Hotel, the very place Daniel had been visiting in secret? She stood up, pacing the room. The letter, the secret meetings, the unknown texts. Nothing made sense anymore. Then she remembered something: the briefcase Rachel had carried. It looked familiar. Black leather with a gold clasp. The same kind Daniel owned. Daughter's stomach turned. Could Rachel have been using something that belonged to her husband? She felt dizzy, her heart racing. She picked up the hotel phone and dialed Daniel's number. He answered immediately. "Claire." "Daniel," she said quickly, her voice shaking. "Who is Rachel Carter?" He hesitated. "Rachel? I don't know anyone by that name." "Why?" The room started spinning. "You don't know her," she whispered. "She said she works with you. She told me everything." "Claire, listen to me carefully," Daniel said urgently. "I don't know any Rachel. Whoever she is, she's lying to you." "Where did you meet her?" "At the Harborview Hotel," Claire said, gripping the phone. She knew about the meetings, about Tom. "Claire," Daniel interrupted, his voice rising in alarm. "I never met anyone at Harborview. I haven't been there in months. That's not where my meetings were held." Claire's heart sank. Her knees gave out and she sat on the edge of the bed, the truth crashing into her like a wave. Someone had been watching her. Someone who knew every detail of her husband's schedule and used it to manipulate her. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling. "If you didn't meet her, then who did?" Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. "Claire, you need to get out of that hotel. Right now." The line went dead. Claire looked around the quiet room. The shadows stretching longer across the floor, and then a faint sound. A knock at her door? What if the danger you feared wasn't outside your door, but already inside your life? Claire's heart slammed in her chest as the knock echoed again, slow, deliberate, and too familiar. She stared at the door, frozen. Daniel's last words replaying in her mind like a warning siren. "Claire, get out of that hotel now, Grandma." Evan's sleepy voice came from behind her. She turned instantly, forcing a calm smile. "It's okay, sweetheart. Go back to bed." But her voice trembled. The knock came again. Louder this time. Claire tiptoed to the peephole and looked out. Her breath caught. Standing there, dressed neatly with a calm smile, was Mark. "Claire, it's me," he said through the door. "I heard a noise. Are you all right?" Relief washed through her, but only for a second. Because now, with everything she knew, every friendly face felt like a possible lie. "Everything's fine, Mark," she said carefully. "Just a long night. Are you sure?" he asked. "You look upset." She hesitated. Mark had been kind since the day they met. But then again, Rachel had been kind too, and Rachel wasn't who she claimed to be. "I'm fine," she repeated, her hand gripping the doorknob. "Thank you." There was silence. Then, softly, he said, "Claire, I think you should see this." Yes. Something in his tone made her pulse race. "What is it?" "I found something near your car earlier. It has your name on it." For a moment, her curiosity wrestled with fear. Finally, she cracked the door open just a few inches. Mark stood there, holding a white envelope with her name written on it in handwriting she didn't recognize. "Someone left it under your windshield," he said. She took it slowly, her fingers brushing his. "Thank you," she said quietly. Mark smiled gently. "Get some rest, Claire." Then he turned and disappeared down the hall. She locked the door, her hands trembling as she tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The message was typed, simple and terrifying. "Stop looking for the truth, or you'll regret it. Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. It warns you to run." Claire dropped the letter, her mind spinning. Someone was watching her. Someone who knew she was searching for answers. She picked up her phone and tried to call Daniel again. No answer. The walls suddenly felt too close. The silence too heavy. She glanced at Evan, sleeping peacefully, and knew she couldn't stay there another minute. She packed their things, quickly essentials only, and slipped out the back exit of the hotel. The cool night air hit her face as she hurried to the taxi stand. Airport. She told the driver, her voice low but firm. As they drove, she kept checking the rearview mirror. No one seemed to be following, but the unease wouldn't leave. She didn't know who to trust anymore. Not Mark, not Rachel, maybe not even Daniel at the airport. She bought 2 last-minute tickets to their hometown. Once she and Evan were safely seated, she finally exhaled. But her thoughts refused to rest. Who wrote that message? How did they know her name and room number? And why had Rachel, or whoever she was, gone to such lengths to deceive her? Sometimes you don't find the truth. It finds you when you least expect it. When Claire landed back home, Daniel was waiting at the arrivals gate. His face was pale, his eyes redrimmed from sleeplessness. "Claire," he said, relief flooding his voice as he pulled her into his arms. "Thank God you're safe." She stiffened. "You said you didn't know Rachel Carter?" "But she knew everything about you, Daniel, everything." He nodded slowly. "Because she's not Rachel Carter. Her real name is Rebecca Lang. She used to work for the same company as me until she was fired last year for stealing client data." Claire's stomach dropped. "So she—" "Yes," Daniel interrupted. "She's been blackmailing several employees, including me. I didn't want you to know because she threatened to expose our finances and your brother's debts if I spoke up." Claire blinked in disbelief. "So all this time you were trying to protect me again?" "I was trying to protect both of us," he said softly. "But I should have told you. I'm sorry." She wanted to believe him. She really did. But there were too many half-truths, too many secrets. "She sent me messages, Daniel. Someone also left a threat at my hotel door." Daniel's face went pale. "You're saying she found you there?" "Yes." He rubbed his face, pacing. "Then she's not finished. She must think you have something she wants." Claire frowned. "But what could I possibly have?" Daniel hesitated. A few months ago, I moved some important files to my home laptop to keep them safe. If she thinks you know about them, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. Sometimes the danger isn't in the secret, it's in who wants to hide it. Later that evening, after putting Evan to bed, Claire sat in her study with Daniel. He opened his laptop and showed her several encrypted folders. "These are financial records," he explained. "They prove that Rebecca and a few others were stealing money from company clients. I've been working with federal investigators quietly to stop her." Claire shook her head. "You should have told me, Daniel. I thought you were cheating on me." "I know," he said, guilt clouding his face. "And that's on me. I didn't realize keeping you in the dark would hurt you worse than the truth." She stared at the screen, trying to process everything. The betrayal, the lies. The fear all tangled together like threads of a web she hadn't seen forming. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from an unknown number. "He's lying again, Claire. Check his files. You'll see what he's hiding." Her blood ran cold. She looked at Daniel. "Did you just text me?" "No," he said firmly, confusion on his face. Her hands trembled. "Then who did?" Daniel frowned, clicking through the folders. "Wait, what's this?" A new file had appeared on his laptop, time-stamped 10 minutes ago. The title, "For Claire." Daniel clicked it open. The file contained scanned copies of legal contracts and an unfamiliar signature. Her eyes widened. "That's my name, but I never signed these." Daniel looked pale. "Rebecca forged documents in your name. These make it look like you helped move the stolen money." Claire's chest tightened. "So she's not just blackmailing you, she's setting me up." Daniel nodded grimly. "And if she sent that threat to your hotel, it means she's watching you closely." Just then, they heard a soft sound from outside, a car door closing. Daniel walked to the window, lifted the curtains slightly, and froze. "What is it?" Claire whispered. He turned to her slowly. "There's a car parked across the street. Headlights off. Someone's inside, just sitting there." Claire's heart pounded. Daniel called the police. Picked up his phone, but before he could dial, it buzzed with a new message. The sender unknown. The message said, "Too late. I told you not to look for the truth." Claire's blood ran cold. She turned toward the window, and this time she saw it too. A dark figure stepping out of the car. They weren't running. They were walking slowly toward the house. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. He took her hand tightly, his face pale but steady. "Take Evan and go upstairs. Lock the door." "But what about you?" He looked at her, eyes full of regret. "I'll handle it." She wanted to argue, but before she could, the doorbell rang, a single, sharp chime that sliced through the silence. Evan stirred upstairs. The night held its breath, and as the bell rang again, Claire realized the truth she'd been chasing had finally arrived right at her doorstep.